What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. We're here for another edition of Syracuse Basketball Postgame presented by Krause Health. Brent Axe, Mike Curtis with you from syracuse.com, and we're coming off the heels of a pretty impressive victory by Syracuse Basketball as they take down Virginia Tech at the Carrier Dome by a final score of 78-60. We welcome those of you that are joining us live on YouTube, joining us live on Facebook. If you are watching this down the road on YouTube, we appreciate that. Just a reminder to those of you that watch live, we do put this up on our Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page. You can find it embedded in my recap. Easy to find after the fact if you do miss it live. Mike, it was a week ago today. We're doing this show, and we're talking about a Syracuse team that gets hammered in the second half, just absolutely pounded on by Pittsburgh, 64 second half points. Things aren't looking good for the Orange. What a difference a week makes, because they're coming off two blowout victories, one today, of course, one Tuesday over Miami. This was a critical game for Syracuse in the sense of they've got some real opportunities to win some big games, some quality wins. This is their first ranked win in about a calendar year. So they're back in the NCAA tournament discussion. That's great, but just the way they're playing, the way they played today, taking advantage of matchups, correcting some things that have been wrong. And, Mike, we're starting to see a Syracuse team finally get into a little bit of a flow here after several interruptions.
Yeah, like you said, what a difference a week makes. And it's pretty interesting to me because they both won these past games against Miami and Virginia Tech in pretty unique ways. If you think about it, they went down early against Miami 11-2, and then they were just off to the races. In the first half of this game, it was pretty much back and forth. Once the second half came around, they just ran away with it. So that's got to do a lot for Syracuse's confidence coming off that loss to Pittsburgh. And now you got the best team in the ACC, according to Jim Boeheim, coming in tomorrow night at 7.
Virginia is up next for the Orange, and what a matchup that will be. There's been a couple times in recent years, Mike, that Syracuse has taken care of business against Virginia, most notably in the 2016 NCAA tournament, but they beat Virginia last season. You know, the Hokies are always a tough matchup for the Orange, as they were today. The Cavaliers, so you played one of the top two teams in the ACC today. You check that box. You play the other tough team, and what Jim Boeheim said after the game is probably going to end up being the best team in the ACC on Monday. Can you get both top teams in the ACC? What a challenge for Syracuse, but they got one of two today. And I wanted to look at some numbers, Mike, because you said it. It's been a unique, versatile way in which Syracuse has defeated Miami and then today defeated Virginia Tech. So Syracuse shot 28 of 55 in this game. That's 50%. Normally, when you look at Syracuse only making 4 3-pointers, that's a problem, but they didn't really need the long-distance shot today. They did go 4 of 13. That's 30%. Virginia Tech started out really hot from the three-point line. They had 6 on the board. By halftime, they finished 8 of 29 from three-point range, which shows you how they dropped off dramatically from there. But, Mike, the story was in the paint today for Syracuse. What an incredible performance there. Points in the paint. Syracuse outscores Virginia Tech 46-24. Syracuse out-rebounded Virginia Tech today. That was a little closer, 37-35, but we know how important it is for Syracuse to be good on the boards. And, Mike, you just came out of the Virginia Tech postgame, and you asked them about why Syracuse was able to dominate so much of the paint. What did they say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Naheem Alim, who led the Hokies in scoring, he had 20 points, 5 3-pointers. He pretty much said that they couldn't sag off of Buddy Boeheim. Both of those guys went bananas in the game against Miami. So they couldn't sag off of those shooters. So they pretty much had to kind of man up and stand their ground there in the paint. And Justin Mutt said, "This is a man's league. If you don't get down there and bang with those guys, you're gonna get bullied." And that's what they did tonight.
Well, I think that's important what you said about Buddy, because we're going to go over the individual stats here momentarily. He didn't have a good game. I mean, let's be honest. But Virginia Tech respected him so much in his ability to hit threes that they couldn't sag off of him, even through a game where he really struggled in this one. I'll tell you who didn't struggle today. That's Alan Griffin. 15 points on the day, 10 rebounds. He picks up the double-double. 7 block shots on the day to add to that terrific defensive performance for the Orange. 2 steals. Quincy Guerrier, I mean, what a machine this guy is. He's averaging pretty much a double-double throughout. He gets 20 points, 9 rebounds today. He's been Syracuse's most consistent player all year. Really had one bad game, and that was against Pittsburgh, and he was in foul trouble in that one. Marek Dolezaj, huge bounce-back game today, 18 points, 6 rebounds. For him, we mentioned not the best day for Buddy. He had 7 points and 3 rebounds. Kadari Richmond struggled out of the gate, got 3 fouls, went to the bench, but had a great second half. 13 points on the day, and Mike, be still my heart, Kadari Richmond hit a 3-point shot. How about that?
Yeah, Mike Young said it in his post-game press conference. He said Richmond doesn't shoot a lick, but he was able to make the one home. But so that was pretty funny to hear. But like you said earlier, Alan Griffin, man, what a performance! Who needs a starting center when you can get 10 points and 7 blocks from your 6'5" small forward?
Syracuse had a distinct size advantage in this game, but they used it. When you've got that, it was funny to see Kadari backing down Cone, like a 6-inch difference there. No one could stop Quincy. Dolezaj was great too. They really needed a bounce-back performance from him. Not necessarily on the offensive end, to be honest with you, Mike, but if it's there, take it. He had a huge advantage inside. He was aggressive right from the get-go, and he scored 18 points, got to the free throw line a little bit, but he was kissing a lot of things off the glass and just, doing what you're told to do as a player. It's a football expression. Take what the defense gives you, and Virginia Tech gave him a lot.
Yeah, I think Jim Boeheim kind of got in Dolezaj's ear after a couple games ago when he gave up that wide open layup to Alan Griffin in the corner. And he said Dolezaj has to be more aggressive. And ever since then, straight out the gate, Dolezaj has been putting his head down and try to get to the rim and make a basket. And that's been tremendous for Syracuse.
And to go back to Alan Griffin, he struggled last game. That allowed Kadari to play the point, Joe to play the 2, even Buddy to come in. And at times, Syracuse was in a 3-guard lineup. But we knew that was not going to be a normal thing, right? Because Griffin can score. He did that today. He can rebound. He did that today. But the 7 block shots, I mean, again, size advantage, but he's 6'5". It's not we're talking about a Marek or a Quincy or, a Jesse Edwards, who we didn't see a lot of today in this game, was 6'11" and can control so much space. It was just hustle. It was just getting over on shooters and showing his worth in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen it all season. Alan Griffin has those moments where he's the best player on this team. He has those moments when he looks disinterested and not giving 100% effort. But when he's totally locked in, especially defensively, he showed that in the first half. He was rebounding, he was blocking shots. When he's locked in and engaged defensively, that just elevates everyone around him.
So, Mike, big picture here. There's a lot of basketball to be played, but as Yogi Berra once said, it gets late early if you don't pick up some quality wins. Syracuse got one today. They had an opportunity to beat a ranked team earlier this year, lost to Rutgers. The schedule, just the way it played out, they've got a couple of wins where they kind of took care of business. They had 2 losses to Pitt, which Pitt's going to end up probably being a top 4 or 5 ACC team. Justin Champagny is just absolutely killing it right now. So you got 2 losses there. You had to start picking up quality wins. They got one today. Virginia is next. Syracuse after that plays NC State next Sunday, the 31st. The way it stands right now, NC State's kind of nipping at Syracuse's heels. They're not a quality win per se. They're about 60th in the KenPom rankings right now. So that's another one of those take care of business games. You get Louisville and Clemson to follow. Those are both top 50 KenPom teams. So what we're seeing here is the opportunity to get quality wins. Syracuse checks one off the book. But, Mike, a lot of players, and even Jim Boeheim mentioned this after the game, that the pauses, the COVID pauses. We found out Joe and Buddy had COVID after last game, and all the pauses they've had. Syracuse feels like they're just starting to get into a rhythm and starting to be the team that they can. Timing is everything in life. It's great timing considering the schedule is really going to beef up here starting with this game.
Absolutely. I think the main thing that Syracuse needs to do, they don't need to look further down the line to see who they're playing, see who they're going to be great matching up against. I think they need to take every game one by one. You got this win against Virginia Tech. It was the biggest win of the season so far. but you got to play Virginia on Monday night. So I think you need to just lock in and focus on Virginia now and do everything and prepare as much as you can for that matchup. Because if you can beat them, then you're going to be in pretty good shape.
Quick turnaround on the road on Big Monday against Virginia. Leave it to us media guys to look ahead on that stuff. They've got to focus on the task at hand, right? Let's jump in and see what you guys are saying in the comments. Appreciate everybody jumping in here today. Tell us where you're watching from. Always like to see where you're watching us from out there on the big, wide internet. Catherine noting that I can't watch Boeheim openly disregard the mask policy. I think you're picking nits there, Catherine, because Jim does wear his mask when he needs to, when he's in close contact with people. When he's 6 feet away from somebody out there, he can have it off. That is allowed out there. It's kind of a tricky thing for these guys to go back and forth. Syracuse has gone through COVID and done it, but listen, it's a tricky thing these days. There are policies in place, but he's not breaking any rules given how they're supposed to be coaching, at least to our point. And if so, maybe someone will talk to him about it. But, that of all things to share an opinion on, I don't know why that's being discussed, but there you go. Blake says, watching from Houston, I noticed once there is some competition for minutes, the starters are playing harder. Griffin seems to be fitting in better. Big win for the Orange. Need another one on Monday. Dustin's in Kentucky. It says it's a great win for the Orange. Brian says here, perfect game plan, not chucking threes versus Virginia Tech and ultimately defending theirs. High energy and results in paint, scoring, and rebounding and 7 blocks from Griffin. Great coaching, game plan, and execution. And we brought it up a bit earlier, Mike. That was really interesting that Syracuse, you take advantage of what's there. But this is a team that likes to shoot threes, and they kind of live and die by the three. So I think it's a relief for Syracuse that they only had 4 threes, only had to take 13 threes and end up with a near 20-point victory today.
Yeah, one thing I do want to draw attention to is Quincy Guerrier and the way he's attracting multiple defenders. There was one instance early in the second half where he had the ball and he was about to drive to the paint, but he kicked it out to Alan Griffin for a wide open 3 at the top of the key. I think that's when Alan Griffin is at his best, when he's getting the ball, he's getting clean looks, and he's just able to rise up because he drained it. And then on the next possession down, he came and was in a little bit of a rhythm and was able to get that turnaround mid-range shot going. So,
by the way, that's something that Quincy couldn't do last year. That shows the involvement in his game. And you brought up a great point, Mike, because he's going to draw so much attention from defenders. Not that it matters. He keeps putting up huge numbers. With Quincy, it's like you get off the tracks before the train hits you kind of thing. He's not getting to the free throw line as much as I thought, considering the defensive attention he's getting. But there are going to be times when he's going to have to step out and drive and dish like that and set up his teammates. And that was not in his game at all a year ago. So shows the involvement for him. And, boy, you take him for granted. I mean, night in, night out, this guy's 18-10, 20-9. 18-8 last game. I mean, it's automatic what you're getting from him, and he's going to start drawing more attention from NBA scouts. You're going to see his name pop up more in NBA mock drafts going forward. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who's an NBA scout, and he says that they're high on his radar for the team that he works for in particular. He's going to start working his way into a conversation. Now, it's mid to late second round, but we've kind of seen that trend in recent years, Mike. Syracuse players that maybe you don't think are going to go to the draft end up getting a lot of buzz and get selected. And the best example of that is Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant was a second-round pick and now is dominating at the NBA level.
Yeah, he's really lighting it up for the Detroit Pistons now. He left the Denver Nuggets in the offseason earlier this season, and he that's his team now. On a team that has Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose, he's really taking a hold of that team and just propelling them to new heights.
Joe thinks it's a great win, but outside of Richmond, still nothing off the bench, and that's not a great recipe for winning going forward. It's interesting, Mike, because I think there maybe was some time you could have put Jesse back in there, maybe got Robert Braswell some run. Griffin had certainly done his job. But, welcome to Jim Boeheim coach basketball teams. I mean, he's just not going to go deep on that bench unless he absolutely has to. It worked last game. Kadari Richmond did get a bunch of minutes here. Jesse did not today. There is a cutoff there. And, it's always a point of contention with Syracuse fans. I mean, you can kind of make the case today that maybe he could have gone on the bench, but this isn't JV, man. This isn't just get out there and get some minutes. That's a ranked team you're playing. We mentioned the pauses that Syracuse has had. The starters and the main players, your main 7 that are going to be the difference in games like this, have not gotten the usual minutes in the practice time that they get. So is it more important to make your best players better or develop some bench players, right? It's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. So I don't have a huge problem with what Boeheim's doing there, honestly. What do you think, though, Mike? Do you think is there a little bit more room to get a Braswell, to get a Jesse, to get some bench players out there and maybe some spots that I wasn't seeing?
No, I think you said it perfectly. Jim Boeheim's going to play his best players, and he's given that speech to us reporters every time we ask about
many times. Yeah.
He's going to put his best players out there, and today it worked. He's not going to change that up unless the game situation calls for it. If someone gets in foul trouble, if he's not liking how they're defending, if they're just going out there chucking 3-pointers, he's going to stick with his guys until they give him a reason not to.
Michael asked for some predictions for the Virginia game, taking an early look at that one, another top 13 team that Syracuse is going to face. What's given Syracuse some success in recent years against Virginia is what we saw today. Defensive stops, 3-point shooting, but particularly I think of Tyler Lydon in the paint in the NCAA tournament. I think of Tyus Battle getting in the paint against Virginia. The thing is, even with that ferocious defense that Tony Bennett throws at you, you've got to challenge it a little bit. You got to get those 2-on-1 breaks. You've got their pace is more methodical and slower than Virginia Tech's. You got to be very patient. You can't waste possessions against Virginia. But the way Syracuse had to play in this game, even before they broke out, Mike, it was close for a while. I thought it was going to be another one of those cardiac Cuse games coming up. They've got experience with North Carolina and Pitt playing some grinders. I don't think Syracuse could be more ready to play a team like Virginia. Never easy to play a Tony Bennett team, and this Tony Bennett team's pretty darn good. But I think the way Syracuse is finally starting to hit a groove, they're ready for that game, but they've absolutely got to hit more 3-pointers than they did today if they're going to beat Virginia.
Absolutely. This Syracuse team has been through so much from the beginning of the season. Their first couple games, they kind of struggled against non-conference opponents. Excuse me. They've had trouble shooting the 3. They've had moments where they've hit program record shooting the 3. They've been blown out. They've been in close games. They've blown big leads. This team has literally gone, and not to mention they had a COVID pause. So this team has gone through like literally every scenario you can think of. And I think they're getting some experience under their belt, and they're getting battle tested for Monday night's matchup.
Love that Dave's watching us from Vegas. Hope things are good out there, Dave. I think those Vegas Golden Knights are going to be a pretty good hockey team this year. Dan's watching us in Phoenix. Appreciate that. And Dale notes this, great on the boards today, and he's bleeding orange in northern Pennsylvania. Look, that's been the story of the season, Mike. You just brought up a number of things Syracuse has been through. It's only late January, and they've been through January's been a hell of a year for Syracuse. I'll put it to you that way. But rebounding is really the story with this team. When they win rebound battles, it's going to be like today. They're not going to win them convincingly, right? They did against Miami on Tuesday, but most of the time Syracuse is going to scrap out rebounding victories, but the second chance points, the points in the paint, the opportunities they got, they cashed in. But when they don't rebound, they're coming from behind. There's a lot less possessions there. So there's a lot of things that are important to Syracuse. The way they rebounded today was really important. And Griffin is right at the top of that conversation. And Marek Dolzaj, boy, I'll tell you what, the prior 3 games to this, he had 7 in 3 games. He had 6 today. You want him to be on the boards where those matchups work. Guerrier is going to get the boards, but the most important thing is rounding it out. Griffin, the guards, Marek, everybody contributing on the rebounding end. So I think that's a good point, Dale. It's kind of a all hands on deck approach for Syracuse. They don't have, I was watching the women's game the other night, and you just watch like Camila Cardoso just vacuum up rebounds in the paint. Syracuse doesn't have that kind of player. It's a total team effort.
Yeah, all she has to do is literally put her hands up in the air and the ball's coming to her.
Absolutely.
But I will ask you this, Brent. If Syracuse, looking ahead a little bit, if Syracuse can get a couple of these quality wins over the next week and a half or so, do you envision them getting a spot in the top 25?
I think it's going to take a lot more for them to get into the top 25 because they're a 4-loss team. They're not even getting any votes right now. They're going to have to really go on a streak. You beat Virginia Monday night, you're going to get on everybody's radar. This one, people will notice. You beat Virginia Monday night. Now everybody's got them on the board, but it's going to be tough to get in the poll because think about it. They're not going to get a lot of votes this week. They won 2-0 and won 2 impressive games, but I don't think they'll get a ton of votes. You beat Virginia. That's impressive. You get on everybody's radar, but then they don't play again until Sunday. So you got pretty much a week in between games. So you got to take care of business against NC State. But then if you pile up that win over Clemson, add in a win over Louisville, now we're talking. The important thing, though, is for Syracuse, they're much better suited for the NCAA tournament conversation. Last I looked, Joe Lunardi had him as one of the first 4 out. Lunardi's going to notice this. And even if they don't beat Virginia, but they're competitive and go through that stretch of the schedule coming up, and even if, let's say so you got Virginia Tech, Virginia, NC State, Clemson, Louisville. Let's say you go 3-2 in that stretch. You're back on the tournament radar. That's really important. Getting into the poll, a little tougher, but I can tell you as a former poll voter, we'll have to ask our friend and colleague Donna Datota how she does it. The best way to get in the poll, Mike, when you're not in it, is to beat ranked teams. So
absolutely,
Virginia Tech today is going to help that conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting Monday, that's for sure.
Well, I think we'll end it right there. Another great show. Appreciate everybody checking in from all over the place. I see as we sign off here, Neil says it finally rained in SoCal, but the sun was shining on the Cuse win today. Great note to end on there. So we'll be right back at it Monday night, Syracuse and Virginia. See if the Orange can get another win on Big Monday against a ranked team. For now, thanks to Mike Curtis. Thanks to you for watching out there. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health. Syracuse beats Virginia Tech today. Final score 78-60. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and go Bills. Maybe, Mike, when we're talking on Monday, the Bills will be in the Super Bowl. We hope.
I'm rooting for y'all.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great weekend, everybody.